Justin back with another weekly update. And this week, I just want to kind of hyper focus on the Mercury retrograde period. There's a lot of undertones to this retrograde that it has me a cause for concern more than usual for Mercury retrograde. And the reason why I feel there's been a building tension, and there needs to be a place to where this needs to be released. And I feel with a lot of the hard squares we experienced last month from the Sun and Mercury to Uranus, Mars squaring Neptune, I think we kind of had a lot of energy that was difficult, unexpected, and we didn't really know where to take it. And then shortly after, early in February, we got some unexpected news or information, some harmonious aspects from Uranus that kind of corrected our course and put us on a different path. But because we were kind of at a culmination point, there's a lot of energies that are really asking us to push us ahead, but then we're getting the hard stop of Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So Mercury in Pisces in general, even if it's not retrograde, it's not the best place, I'll say it. Mercury in Pisces people have, they're dreamers. They, in one way, they can get to other realms very easily, but they have a hard time taking those desires and passions and bringing it into form. Mercury and Pisces people, they can be a little bit foggy. They can overlook details, and taking what they get from the ether and putting it into the physical. So why I see this as a difficulty is last week we had Venus ingress into Aries. So that's the first layer. Venus wants what it wants now. Aries people, they just take action without thought. It's Aries in general is ego without consciousness. They have something they're set on and they go for it full steam, but they don't really take the measures needed to complete the full process. To also kind of add that to mix, Mars has also moved from Sagittarius into Capricorn. Now Mars and Capricorn people are very successful. They are very goal-oriented. They hit the pavement, they get things done, they take action, and they complete actions. They're very driven by success and goals. And then around the 21st of the month, we actually have Mars is going to trine Uranus. We have Venus in Aries that was with Chiron over the weekend. So there's a lot of this action from the Leo full moon where we got a jolt of inspiration. And since we've kind of been feeling like we've been running in quicksand the month of January, now we really want to just take this and move forward with it. And it's like the force crashing into the wall. It's like wanting to drive ahead, and Mercury in retrograde is asking us to stop and pump the brakes. So this is where I feel like things could get interesting. So Aries can be very impulsive. Mars trine Uranus could be very fast actions, very impulsive. So just in general, the theme for Mercury and retrograde is to go back and redo things, repurpose things, revisit things. With the full moon in Leo, it's a culmination point. It's like you can't start reading a new chapter unless you read the chapter before it. So to me, I think it's a really important time to tie up loose ends. And with the Mars and Capricorn energy, I would say instead of taking this inspiration and moving ahead, it's asking you to put together your business plan. You've been staring at your vision board for a couple of weeks now. now what do you do with it? It's like if you get an investment, you want to start a business, you don't just find the first retail spot you could find and open your doors. You have to build your website. You have to get your URL. You have to get your employee org chart, your marketing plan. So I think what's going on is it feels great to get this jolt of energy and this fiery inspiration behind us. Often when I work with Piscean people, I always encourage them to bounce over into their opposite house, which is Virgo. And Virgos are very granular. They have very close attention to detail. They're perfectionists. And I think this is what the energy is calling for, because if we do, it's the equivalent of, getting a scratch off ticket from the gas station. You get in the car and you got, a $20,000 winning lottery ticket. And then you hit your foot on the gas and you blow the stop sign and you get hit by an oncoming car. It could be really overtaken with this energy, and God knows we need it. But I think it needs to be harnessed and then filtered and manifested appropriately. Or we could come into some issues. So you have all this energy wanting to drive ahead, and Mercury retrograde for the next 6 weeks is asking you to get granular, get into the details, especially with Mercury in retrograde in Pisces. It's overlooking things. We have also Mercury is paired up with Neptune. So, this could also be somewhat deceptive, having rose-colored glasses about the situation that you're in. Skim reading through contracts and not going line by line in an orderly fashion. And I know a lot of people that are have been offered some business deals, have been offered a job. Me personally, I am going through my pre-approval process for buying a home, and my realtor has been making me aware of market conditions that would suggest that I need to move on a property sooner than later. And, I gave her the disclaimer that I am an astrologer and I do kind of follow a different path when it comes to these things. So right now it's just getting the right paperwork into my loan officer. It's not a bad time for me to go out house hunting. But I made it clear to her that we will not be putting an offer on any home whatsoever until after this 6-week period has expired. So right now it's more about going out, seeing what we like, what we dislike. Even if we see our dream home, it's not to move on it, but just gives us a frame of reference of what we are looking for, or what will be best suited for our next steps and path. Also with the Mars trine Uranus, it could be kind of dangerous. Again, it's Mars and Capricorn and Uranus, that pairing is very impulsive. It's very fast action, but it's also could be very much unexpected events. And with Mars, with that pairing, could mean injury. It could be an unexpected accident. It could be trauma. Which could even be fatal. So, I have on my calendar the 19th to the 24th is my fiance and I, we're on lockdown period. We're not going to be doing house hunting. We're going to be going through paperwork, everything is in retrograde, redoing, redefining, repurposing. So we're going to be getting into the details of our home search, put together our grid of where we want to live and where we're prospecting. But we're definitely not going to be leaving the house and taking any directed action. So some helpful hints or tips during this time. One is continue to, use the Jupiter and Capricorn energy and keep visualizing your vision board. and itemize it by importance, and by a little more methodical steps. If you have been offered a job recently, it's looking through the fine details of the contract, making sure the job description adds up to what you desire for yourself. It would not be a time to sign any contracts. I've had a good friend of mine who bought his car in the last 2 retrogrades. And sure enough, he spent more money fixing the vehicle than he did for the original sticker price of the car. And I believe the first vehicle he bought, he ended up having to junk it and couldn't even resell it at all. And that's not to say I told you so, but these are type of things that could happen during the Mercury retrograde period. It's definitely not a time for any large purchases whatsoever. Even smaller purchases like a cell phone or things of that nature, which seem to be a little more safe because they're not as pricey. But you might get a defected one, and then you have to send it back, and then you're without a phone for a couple of weeks. Mercury rules communication. Long distance travel, it's not something I would recommend at this time. However, we all have to live in 3D reality, and we have work assignments, business opportunities, planned vacations with loved ones. So if you are in a situation in which you have to travel, I would say plan everything in advance. If you're doing a long distance drive, maybe notate on the map where all the gas and rest stops are, just in case maybe you overshoot and then you are stuck with running out of gas or something of that nature. If you are flying, I would say I would avoid any flights where you have to connect to another flight. That happened to me in retrograde once last year. And then I ended up having to rent a car and then drive 4 hours to my destination. So the trip ended up being, 4 or 5 hours longer than it needed to be. So a good way to kind of overcome that is try to find yourself a direct flight. Even if it costs you a little more, it might save you more in the long run. Also, since we're, discussing communication and how we receive and deliver information, anything in the work scope, I would double, triple check emails before sending them, double, triple check reports before submitting them to your boss or manager. Speaking wise, I think it would be a better time in general to avoid email correspondence or text correspondence with friends. I think conversating in person might be more clear, and even then you could have some difficulties. The one trick that I have is I ask to stay in the question. And when you stay in the question, you open yourself up to more possibilities. So before I speak to anybody, I ask myself or my higher awareness, how can I deliver this information in a way for the other person to receive with ease, grace, and glory? And I think that if there's any takeaways from this video this week, I think that would be the homework I would prescribe to anyone right now, is to take a step back. And even if there's some emotional conversations, we do have the moon square Venus and Chiron. So for that, just by itself, when I was in marketing, I always told my property managers before responding to a negative review on Google or Yelp, activate the 24-hour rule, right? Take yourself, your personal response to it out of the energy, and then the next day you could look at it from a 40,000-foot view and deliver a more appropriate message. So there's a lot of signs for trouble. I think if you could take this knowledge, and you could, Mercury retrograde has always gotten a bad rap. It's a great time to, redecorate, reconnect with old friendships that you may have lost in touch with. I think last Mercury retrograde, I switched my guest room and my master bedroom and vice versa. And we changed the feng shui of rooms. And because one of the things I've been dealing with this Piscean energy is been dealing with a lot of crazy dreams. So we eliminated some furniture from the room. We placed our bed in a more harmonious aspect. I even moved my desk and my computer monitor that would facilitate me being a better communicator. So there's a lot of things you could do, and these times are not a sick joke from the universe. As a humanity, especially with 5G, we want everything faster, now, Amazon, yesterday, 2-day Prime, here. It's chaos, and it could cause a lot of difficulties, but luckily we're out of January. We have this new passion from the full moon in Leo. We have had some exciting information come in to pass, but it's time to step back, take close attention to details, get your magnifying glass out, and make this energy as best as possible for yourself. And don't swim against the current, swim with it. For those of you that have not put yourself into a place of action because of the heaviness coming in from January, I would say to you that the greatest risk in life is not to take one, and it's never a risk being yourself. So I hope all of you found this helpful. Again, this is Justin with I'm Your Aid Astrology. I'm not your coach. I'm not your guru. I'm not your guide. I'm your aid. I'm your angel in disguise. I help you, empower you. Until next time, thank you. So strong.